In the previous video, we looked at the dev, staging, and prod environments and what it takes to have the coding lifecycle for a particular model go through these different stages. We looked at the nuances, we looked at what are all the things that you uh, track across these environments. And we briefly mentioned about this tooling called MLflow. Let's look at now what that MLflow tooling itself is about. So it's an open source platform for managing the model lifecycle, and it's framework agnostic, which means it can be used for any open source ML development um, tools like scikit-learn, TensorFlow, PyTorch, etc., Keras, right? So the core components of what's included in MLflow, um, it in fact the main thing that everybody uses it for is something called as tracking. Tracking, as the name suggests, is going to be helpful in tracking everything related to the ML lifecycle, starting from development all the way through the actual usage of the model. MLflow also helps with ensuring that the models that you work uh, frequently with, including give updated versions of, are the ones that are getting served from, right? Are the ones that are getting used in inferencing. So it helps with basically ensuring that the deployment is governed. So that's a critical component that's there with MLflow. Then it also provides the registry of what are all the models, which versions, who developed it, what tags are associated with it, what are salient changes from one model to another. So those aspects of what you would conventionally expect from a registry of things is available with MLflow, which provides a registry for models. To tie it all together, it provides a UI that allows you to have a visual interface for how to track all of this. Um, and then that's combined with standard best practices around both evaluating models as well as the overall MLOps workflow that we've been talking about all this while. So it's a it's actually a project that was created by Databricks, and it was something that got motivated by uh, from the use of Spark, but since then has evolved into much more useful tool, a much more useful tool which is standalone, right? It's not necessarily only meant for large scale data processing or large scale data modeling using ML, but also for any type of um, model development lifecycle, right? So MLflow is actually very useful. So, like I said, what are the different components? Tracking. Tracking is for logging and comparing experiments. So the jargon here that you should be aware of is an experiment is one specific uh, training run of a particular type of model, and the associated changes to those runs, which are changes in hyperparameters or data processing or associated output processing, etc. All of that correspond to one experiment. So, for instance, with our iris classification, homework pipeline that we've been using continuously, the experiment itself is going to be about using decision trees for building a classifier for iris samples. That's the experiment. The experiment will have multiple runs. Each run corresponds to a specific type of training that we do with some changes. Like, for instance, the model type can be changed, therefore, it creates a new run, or the hyperparameters can be changed, which creates a new run, etc., etc. So, experiments, logically, then comes the runs. The runs use the models, that are getting produced as a result of the training exercise, and those models in turn are stored in the models MLflow models module or component, so that manages the model packaging. The registry is uh, mainly meant for annotating everything related to the model, right? Which means who created this model, when did they do it, what are the tags, what is the output accuracy that was used for justifying the updations to the versions. All of that is getting tracked here. And then projects is basically another component for producing reproducible code, which means the environment that's required for the code to run, since you're following the deploy code lifecycle pattern, that environment, how is that getting specified, the configuration file for it, and how is it getting tracked. That's all part of MLflow projects component. So we'll take a look at these in a bit more detail. So tracking tracks parameters, matrices, like I said, tags, artifacts. So pretty much the most commonly used component of MLflow is this. So the way you would use it is by um, having an entire training run happen first, and then once that training script is executed, you would have the logging portion of the code written this way. So here you're logging the um, hyperparameters. In this case, it's just a simple LR parameter or learning rate parameter of 0.001, and then whatever accuracy that you're calculating as part of the training run, that accuracy, let's say it comes down to 0.92, that gets logged as an output metric. So using the log param and log metric function. So with this, we have now created a log of what happened in that run, right? With what was the input hyperparameter value and what is the output accuracy value. So it provides a compendium of these different run related attributes or features, and then you can use the UI for that MLflow provides for visual comparison of these experiments. The good part is the tracking server. I mean, it's server based as a architecture. It's fully integrated with Python. It supports REST based calls, and it also provides a UI. So which is fairly comprehensive for an open source project that 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 tries to solve for this problem of tracking model development. So in general, you can use MLflow start run as the start of the particular run for that experiment, and then track the full range of hyperparameters that you have access to, matrices associated with that run, and artifacts for that that are produced by that run, so that you have traceability back to the individual versions of the models themselves. Projects is the second component. Here, the ML code that we produce or we pull from GitHub is going to be encapsulated within environments for us to execute. Those environments are in turn going to be either driven by containers like Docker, or Python environments which are provided by Conda. Either which way, the ability to use standard representations for the environment is what MLflow projects provides. So this then allows you to take um, models which are registered or which are with MLflow and run it both locally as well as remotely anywhere, because it's fully specified as to what needs to happen for the environment to support that execution of the model. So it looks like a YAML file, like we keep coming back to this YAML format in various forms across different tooling. So the YAML file tells what to do, what is the current environment that needs to be created using Conda in this case, and then various aspects of what is the execution that we are going to perform as an action. Anyway, so you might ask the question now, in what way is projects different from Git? Because Git also tracks versions of the code. Uh, the key difference is that Git only stores the code versions, whereas the runtime execution, which includes configurations of the environment, like for instance, the use of GPUs or the CPUs, the use of floating point decisions, arithmetic, what kind of coding assumptions you make about how floating point numbers are handled, that will vary based on the chipset on which the code is running, etc. All of those are environmental variables. So MLflow tracks or records all of that, and it uses the Git source code, right, by referring to a specific version of that particular repo, the code in the repo, and executing that particular version. So for instance, let's assume that the code is stored in a repo.git repository. So the MLflow execution for that code using projects would run from that particular repo with some particular hyperparameter values, and then projects would record all of this information and track it using the tracking component that we saw earlier. So that's how it's complementary to Git. Models, like I said earlier, it allows us to package the models in multiple flavors. Flavors meaning multiple different model development toolkits like sklearn and TensorFlow, etc. Then it registers the models with versioning as well as stage information. Stage information pertains to the fact that there are different versions of the models as the models go through dev, staging, and production. So you can register all of that so that you have full traceability as to how that production grade model got produced, which validation steps did it clear, who promoted that particular production model. All of that is part of a registry. And it also obviously records the environment variables and the model signatures so that you have full traceability of what actually happened. Registry is the physical store of the model, right? And MLflow uses registry to manage the models with respect to the versions that are getting produced by the model's component. So manage it like software, which means you register a model, the model gets stored in a particular location. So when then the model is called upon for inferencing or for deployment, it's getting fetched or retrieved from that registry. Um, and then once it's fetched, it then gets moved to staging for validation. And then once that is also successful, then it's getting promoted to production. And in every stage, the registry allows you to create tags and comments and descriptions so that you have, a human lineage to the model, right? So that's an important aspect. And then finally, it also has automated triggers which you can fire off for taking some actions on events. So the events can be very similar to what we saw in the last week's lectures with GitHub Actions and CML. Something similar is possible here. Now, the side note I want to just add here is, like with all open source projects in this space, there is overlap between different tools with respect to the functionality. So which tool you use for what functionality comes down to, again, convenience on the one hand, but also you might want to factor in which tool is purpose built for a specific type of work. Like for instance, GitHub Actions CML is purpose built for CI CD kind of actions that you want to do on top of ML code, which means triggering actions for unit testing, for regression testing, for validations, triggering actions for deploying the code once all those validations are successful and you promote it. Whereas the MLflow registry kind of a concept is great at managing models, but you wouldn't want to exactly use it for triggering actions directly when you have access to like a GitHub repo as well. So, in fact, preempting what I was going to just say, if you put it all together, the CI/CD that we spoke about last week, especially the CI side rather, how do you work that in complementarily to the MLflow tool? So broadly, there are 3 steps that are required in the model development lifecycle. First is the training. Second is you compare the trained model, like potentially the challenger model with the champion model, and then once you're through and everything's successful, then you merge and make that the final deployed model in production. So for the training step, right, the tool that you would use is going to be GitHub Actions and CML. We saw that in last week's lecture. The action that you would use would be to log that run, log every single training run using MLflow. So you would use GitHub Action for making the CI itself work, and then the actual logging of the data or the tracking of the data happens through MLflow. So when you're ready to compare, then the comparison is between the champion model, challenger model, or earlier versions to the newer versions. You can use the CML comment feature to take the output of the unit tests, the regression tests, the latest accuracy matrices for the latest version, and then have that be surfaced in the pull request or the merge request. And then the action that gets taken is the user that reviews that data will then decide that the pull request is worth acting upon, and then they will merge the data, or they will ask for more matrices to be computed, right? Then lastly, let's say that they're ready for merging, and at this stage the merge happens into the main production branch or the main release branch. So this becomes a GitHub action that gets done out automatically, and then at this stage the final version of the model is getting produced. So therefore the action that gets taken now is MLflow registry is used for registering this model, and then the deployment happens from that registry into the final production environment. So that's how MLflow and CI/CD work together. Okay, so we'll take a pause at this stage, and then in the next uh, video we will start discussing a bit more about hyperparameter tuning.